Hello, how's everybody? Hope everybody's doing good. Okay, so get your paper. We're gonna draw today, so all you need is paper, and I always emphasize you could use 9 by 6, which is paper from a pad that is 12 by 9 by 12. We cut it in half, and we get two sheets of 9 inches by 6 inches, which is this. We're gonna draw here, but I'm very excited because there's many of you that have joined the class, as time went by, and one of the first lessons. This is more than a year ago, when we started drawing, was kind of like patterns and what's called um, a drawing or an artist mark. I'm gonna talk about that as we do the project. That way we save time. But the idea is just to practice different ways of marking in regards to design, right? Because you can make marks with different tools. A paintbrush does a different mark than a pencil, right? So that's about the tool. But you, as the artist, you could also do different marks because you choose to. And actually, eventually, those marks are what makes a style, and experts can recognize that a work is done by a certain artist, kind of like a signature, because that's the way they do marks. So the more variety of marks we learn when you draw, you could put those into your drawing. So that's what we're going to do today. And with that, we're going to really emphasize that a lot. So the design of these drawings are called, it's a style called Zentangle. So I have my piece of paper, and I do encourage you, please get another piece of paper. It doesn't have to be the same size. I have a different size here, as you can see, smaller. But we needed to go over those marks before we put them on the main drawing. Okay, so I have two pieces of paper. The one you're gonna do your work, your final product, and then another piece of paper, smaller, or a scrap or something, to sketch and see what you can do before you put it on the main work, which is good practice. Okay, so you got pencils. If you have more than one pencil, great, because it saves you time for sharpening. You do have to sharpen your pencils, but if you have a few sharpened pencils already, you could actually switch between them and save time. Now, one thing about that is you have to make sure then that the mark the pencils do is kind of similar. You'll notice some pencils write a little darker than others. So make sure your pencils kind of make the same darkness, or if you want it lighter, then lighter. But you don't want to switch to another pencil and then be completely, let's say, lighter, or, um, okay. You see, this seems a tiny bit darker. And these yellow pencils, this is fine. These yellow pencils are number 2. Yep, they say it there. It's the same number 2 as the number 2B. And growing up in school, the teachers will always say, make sure your pencil is a number 2. But some of them sometimes say HB or H, which tends to be a little lighter. Okay, so we're gonna draw here. I'm gonna draw some flowers. We're gonna draw some flowers later that we're gonna put those marks and designs in them. But for now, let's do some marks. Okay, so Zentangle, I'm gonna write it here, and it's on the title of the video. It's written like this with a Z. It's a style, and actually some people use it as a meditative, or as a meditation process. Because if you think about it, when you keep doing these patterns, it becomes repetitive, and I don't know, it relaxes you. It's very simple to do. Doesn't require, um, you know, to be an expert, right? Anyone can make marks. It's like doodling. Yeah, it's like another level of doodling, exactly. So it's titled Zentangle, and we're gonna do some designs here, and you can come up with your own. Your drawing is not gonna end up being like mine, even though you follow my instructions, because you could at any point change your design, your mark, or emphasize more of your mark, or that type of thing. Now, one rule, it's not a rule, but one thing to keep in mind when you do these marks is we want to like enclose them. Okay, so rather than making marks like this in an open, you see, sheet of paper, see how there's nothing containing this? We want to contain them into a space. So imagine if I have made a square here. Then these marks, we're going to start with these ones, can be contained, you see, in the square. And throughout the drawing, we're going to contain our marks to define them from the others. Does that make sense? So this is our first mark. And I apologize, the camera is focusing back and forward. Maybe if I make it come closer. Um, but my fingers will, there you go. So when I put my hand in, um, yeah, just lines, just curvy lines. Since I did a square, I'm gonna do a bunch of squares to keep doing marks. But let's start with this one, just lines. Some of them have names because they're very popular for drawing. And I have to emphasize, we're doing this with pencil. Yes, it's great. You could probably erase it. You don't need to erase here. Um, but I want to emphasize that the practice of Zentangle more likely will be done with pens. I'll explain you why. But pencil is fine too. But the reason why most people do it with pen is because it's clear. You don't need to erase. It's not about erasing, right? It's about leaving the mark. And pen with time uh, uh, doesn't lose the vibrancy as a pencil. So pencil quickly with time kind of gets lighter, or you could smudge it. But with a pen, once it dries, it's pretty permanent. And sometimes we may want that vibrancy of darkness that a pen can actually do. But I'm doing pencil because I'm sure you all have pencils. It won't be fair if I start doing something in a pen, and I'm not sure if everybody at home or at the center have a pen. So this is the first one, lines just like that. We could have kept them straight. They're not. Um, um, so I'm going to do a bunch of squares as we go along, okay? Um, and try to keep them the same size. And these same patterns are the ones we're going to have in our drawing, okay? We may not finish the drawing now that I look at it. It's it's a little exhausting to fill in the space because you got to actually fill the whole drawing. You shouldn't leave open, empty areas. So, but at least we get the marks. Okay, once we get these marks, you can have them as reference for your drawing. And we're gonna start our drawing, and you can finish it on your own time. And maybe next time we see each other, we share the results. So these were lines. Why don't we do here circles? Like try to keep them the same size. This one, and they're barely touching each other. Maybe another design will be circles that do touch each other, but this one they're barely almost touching. So you create your own design. You see, I'm doing these ones, but you're gonna do your own. Excuse me. They're gonna be squares that I want you to come up with your own. As we do it, we could keep talking. If when you think about it, um, every letter of the alphabet, it is a mark. It's a type of mark that we recognize as a certain letter. Same thing with numbers, symbols, right? So there are certain marks, and I'm gonna do them in a moment here, next to it, not now, that are used for shading. So when you shade, when you do a drawing in pencil, you could shade obviously by smudging, you know, which is like um, softening the graphite that's already in the paper. But with a pen or something that does a more permanent mark, you could shade with marks. Okay, when you look at a comic book or illustrations in the past, I say in the past because they needed to be printed by a different type of press. Not now we have amazing machines, but in the old days, the press that would make a book illustration um, needed marks. You know, needed like a recognizable mark. So if you look at all illustrations, the way they shade the drawing, the grays and all that, those were actually lines or dots. So those are actual marks. We're gonna do those in a moment here. Actually, I'm gonna make them at the end here, so you could refer to them when you draw, and you can make you could use them for when you draw with a pen. So we have circles. We could also do. uh, Look at this. You see the letter W. I'm gonna continue it. Look, kind of like a roof tile. Can everybody see that? I should get closer. So this right here, I'm gonna do the next one. Kind of like scales. And in this one, I chose them not to touch. But in the next one, maybe they do touch. And they're one above the other. You know? Maybe this one up here, watch, has them touching. So trust me, there's thousands, millions of different marks. You could come up with. So this one is not touching. This one I'm doing right now, those look more like scales of a snake or a dragon because they're touching. And if you shade them here above it, just a little bit with the pencil, it looks literally that one is on top of the other. I don't know if you can see this. This is actually when they draw a dragon body, they do this, illustrators. Just shade a little bit between them. Okay, you get the idea. So let me do over here at the other end the ones I'm talking about that I use very commonly for shading and drawing with pens more likely, but and then we'll continue more patterns over there. So let me do a few squares, 4 squares at least. Keep up with me. So here's 4 squares, kind of. They're not perfect square. This is a rectangle, but so the first one is dots. These are all going to be equal dots. Actually, just for the sake of this square, I'm going to break the rule a little bit and I'm going to change inside the square the pattern. Remember how I said the square will keep the same pattern? So here I'm going to change a little bit the pattern to show you something. So we have all these dots, right? You see, just dots made with the pencil. But if I concentrate dots or I make more dots towards this end, then it's going to get darker. Some of you have heard me do this already and were in the class long, long ago, but it's always good to review. Those new, if this is new for you, is great. So I'm emphasizing the number of dots together towards the right. And if you notice, that makes this area be darker. And that's actually how, if you look at a newspaper printed page, and you look at a photo and get a magnifying glass, this is how it works. The darkest the photographs part, there's this all these little dots that get closed. Okay, and the lighter, the less dots. You see how if I pull back, it goes from lighter to darker. So this is one of the very famous ones. The other one is lines. So you could make lines. Actually, we're gonna keep this the dark area. The lines here are closer, and as they get lighter, they're gonna open up and be more spacious. I know you've seen this in designs, but as they come to this end, they're closer. To the right. Okay. The other one is this one. There's lines too, but I could do lines that are parallel to each other. And that's just shading, just because they're parallel to each other. Now the next one, I take this, the same thing, okay? Look. But this time, I'm gonna make the lines go parallel. It's like a screen, like a mosquito screen or a net. So just because I did this, this one is gonna be, when you look far away, darker than this one. This one. The next one next to it could be that has both things here, right? Has the screen. So let's do the screen again. We have to do the screen. And the lines that we're gonna add. So right now, I'm just finishing one that looks exactly like this one here. You see they're both the same? They're just lines that have been crossed. So this lines pattern is called hatching. So the one line is hatching, and the lines over each other is called cross hatching. But to differentiate this one from this one, now I'm going to make a line, but in an angle. Look. You see? So this area is darker than this one, just because of the amount of lines that are over each other. If I were to do another one, then it will have the pattern here that this one has, the um, diagonal lines like this, and then I'll add another one diagonal like this, and every time it's gonna be get darker and darker and darker. Okay, so let's put it here. I'm gonna do that just to demonstrate you. Is you following me? So let's do this one again, which is lines that are parallel to each other. Then we go up perpendicular like a screen. So this is the screen. So this one right here now is just like this first one. Now I'm gonna do the angle one, the one in an angle. Look. And by doing this, now these two look the same next to each other. This one is just like this one. But to differentiate between these two, I went like, well, I earlier went like this, right? In this angle. Now I'm gonna go in the opposite angle like that. And you see how it's actually getting darker? It's getting darker because there's more lines on top of each that square. So this one is darker than this one. This one is darker than this one. This one is darker than this one. This one is just lines that if you put the lines together towards one end, it's going to be darker. This one is just dots that if you put the dots together in some area, it's going to get darker. If you spread the dots, it's going to get lighter. Okay, so these are the ones used for shading. I could show you samples of drawings next time done by people using this, but think of all illustrations or newspapers, like I said. So hatching, cross hatching, when you cross the lines. Let's make more fun patterns here. So I'm gonna do a bunch of squares line up with this one, okay? I'm just making squares so we could fill them in. Remember I said you need to contain the space for your pattern. Maybe I could do, this is too tight to have done two. So sorry, three, 1, 2, 3. So I did two. Okay. So we have little bubbles. These bubbles in this one next. I'm gonna do bubbles here, but they're gonna come and go on top of each other. Look, these are circles that are going one over each other, kind of like a chain, like rings. I just made that up. You could make up your own. You could do the different letters, like I said. So these circles. Give me 1 second. These circles here are rings that have been one put over each other. Look at this one here. I'm gonna do a bunch of lines in space from each other, right? But in each line, look, I'm gonna do a circle. Sorry, I'm gonna do a bunch of circles line up in the line. So it's like if they're wearing like tubes or, you know what I mean? They're just line up. You could barely see the line now, but see the difference? Okay, now look at this one. We can do wavy lines. Wavy lines. I mean, there's so much you can do. You could do, look, we could do lines, then cross them with enough space to make some squares. But wait, watch. You see, I kind of make another wider screen, but watch what we're going to do now. On every time they connect the lines, We're gonna do a little dot big enough to be actually very seen. You will learn that you could do anything in Zentangle. You could draw anything, a cat, a bird, a butterfly, flowers, anything. And you could, with design of marks, decorate it or draw it. So that one looks like this. Okay. We could do, look, spirals that are not right in the center. So I'm going to do a spiral here. I stop. I do another spiral here. That's going to touch that one. And I'm going to do another one here and do the lines that will continue. Look at those. Those are spirals. I could do circles and second circles like donuts, and circle in another circle, and circle in another circle, circle in another circle, circle and another circle around it. See this? And after this, I could leave it like that, or I could add more designs to this. You know? So I could have made this circle in the middle dark, or I could darken the space that's between them. Look, I could make dark the the space between them. This way they can be more recognizable that they are circles. So I'm putting dark in the space between them. Does that make sense? Like I'm shading. I'm gonna switch pencils very soon after this because this one is losing its point. Okay, you see. Two different marks, you know. This one, next one, I'm gonna just do hearts, but in different angles. Look, hearts. See that? Upside downs. Floating around. I could again shade between them or actually shade the hearts. Let's do the hearts this time. But I could have left also the hearts the way they are so you could recognize the curve in here. Usually when you darken, it's hard to see the little curves hearts have. But it's okay. I just wanted to teach you the point that you could shade things or make certain areas darker than others. But these are hearts that are, darker or black. Okay. So this next one is I'm gonna do it with lines. There's so many things you could do with lines. So we're going to make a set of lines and another set of lines. But now we're going to do checkers, kind of like checkers. So if this square here is dark, then not the one next to it, obviously, the one after is going to be dark. Kind of like a chess or checkers board. And then under it is the one in between right here in an angle. So not right under, it's in between. Kind of like this. And then you do this pattern. We're going to start our drawing soon, but you get the idea. In the drawing, I purposely gonna do new marks to show you that you could do so many things on the spot too. But I'm gonna do a couple of the ones we've done here because that's actually the point of why we did this sheet. And you can have a bigger sheet of paper full of designs, okay? Call them designs or marks, but we need to fill these squares here, these blank ones. Okay. These heart here are the ones used in drawing, most likely. So hatching, cross hatching. I think the dots is called stippling. Okay, let's go to our drawing. And let's do everything kind of thick and enclosed. For example, if I do a flower, let me back this up. This is our sheet of 6 by 9 inches. Um, okay, I think I got it. Let's do our flowers big. So look, let's do a big flower where there's a center circle like this. Petals, about 5 or 7. So 1, 2, 3, between 5 and 7. So 3. I can see that this third you see is half, so I could do 3 more. 4, 5, and 6. You see how I'm enclosing the space? Because now I can make a design in this petal or in the center. Now the stem, look, it's not just one line. It's 2 lines next to each other because I need to make it thicker. So I could make designs in here. Same thing with the leaves. 1 leaf, 2 leaves. 1 up here, 1 down here. Split the leaf in half. Split the leaf in half. And you could actually even split it like a leaf is like this. So you see all these spaces? You understand now why we're keeping all these enclosed spaces? Try to replicate that flower. Okay. I'm going to do a couple more, maybe 2 more. This one, smaller here, it's going to be hearts. Maybe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 hearts. So follow me. 1 heart. All the hearts are going to come from this point, the tip here at the bottom. So this is 1. This is 2, opposite. 3. And 4. Kind of like a 4-clef treble. Uh, uh, The stem, same thing, kind of thick. Let's do a flower here based on circles. So there's a small circle, look, small circle. And other circles, one. Let's see how many circles we could do. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That one barely fit, so I need to make space. Kind of thick. We could do 3 of this. So small circle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and another one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 petals. And I did the stems. You following me with this one? The 6 petal circles around a little circle. There you go. This flower, let's see what happens if I do something like this. Like a drop of water like that. But another one maybe smaller here. Another one cover here. Here. Here are the tips. You see what I did? Can you replicate that? So I did 2 drops kind of curve onto each other and then the tips. And it looks like an enclosed flower. We could do a couple of this. Maybe that's one. And maybe there's another one here. Same thing. Smaller. Okay, let's do a few more things. We could do a stem that gets pointy at the end. See that? But then in between, there are these, I don't know, oval things. Let's make them oval. 1, 2, 3. I'm just making this up. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This one has 2, but 1, 2, 3. 1, 3. I'm hiding them behind this one because it means it's one thing is on top of the other. Okay, so maybe about here, and then there's one here. See that? Maybe we could unite them with a line. That was the idea. Okay, so that's one of these. We can make grass, you know, different shapes of grass coming out like this. But again, remember, you gotta enclose them. So this is why I'm closing them as drops. or kind of horns or whatever you want to call this that I'm doing, um, like drops of water, circular at the bottom. You know, so look, following. It could have been maybe circles for someone else. I don't know. Um, but I'm making like this drop like things looking. But it could have been done differently. Okay, so now to finish up a little quicker, over here we could do two butterflies. So one butterfly like this. You see one bump, two bump, center, one bump, two bump. Similar to the other side. So whatever I did on this side has to be on this side. So this is a butterfly. Another maybe smaller here. We'll do the antenna and everything of that later. But you see the two butterflies? And now, very important, because think of the space that is blank here. Okay, so follow me here before we start putting the marks. Everything has been enclosed. Look, the wings are enclosed. You see, it's an enclosed space. The center of the butterfly is an enclosed space. The center of the flower is a circle. The petals are enclosed. When I say enclosed, they're not open to the rest of the paper. You know, so the leaves are pretty enclosed. Each section is closed up. The stem is a tube that is closed up. The bottom, even at the bottom here, look, I closed it up. If this is a good example, if I have left it open, you will not see this line down here. Okay. Um, right. Everything is pretty much enclosed. Now the situation is that we have all this paper, negative space. Let's call it the negative space. That's behind the flowers and the butterflies and all this. You see this white? So if I were to do patterns or marks in the flower for this circle, good. For this petal, good. But when I do it on this open space, look what will happen. I will have to continue all over this area because it's open. So we may not want that when you do Zentangle. And that's the reason why we're going to do the following now. We're going to make lines that are going to be behind the flowers. So if I make a line that goes behind this flower here, a curvy line, let's make a curvy. I have to continue it, not on top of it, but behind, like close it over here. So right now, you see now we have an enclosed space. What's behind this butterfly comes all around here, but stops here. This is another section. So we're going to basically enclose the negative space. I could make another wavy line that goes right here. You see how now I have this space enclosed for a mark or a pattern. So make lines kind of like stained glass. You know, you see what's happening? I'm enclosing sections of the background. So now we have this area enclosed, this area enclosed, this area enclosed, this area now is enclosed. This is a big area here, but you're following what's happening. Okay. I'm gonna leave this here. It has to be done all over, um, and um, and I'm gonna end showing you another technique for Zentangle that is done. But let's make patterns so I could get you going. So here we could do the one that is like this. Remember, checkers. So I'm making my lines for the center of this flower. The look, my checkerboard. Remember, if this is dark, this is dark, this is dark, this is dark, this is dark. So I made my checkerboard pattern right from the start. All I have to do is jump one square in between. But you could have chosen to do hearts, I don't know, or the letter R, or the letter C. But you see the center of this flower right now came out to be like the checker pattern. Maybe this petal will have my circles, my bubbles. Just this petal. You're following? So we won't be able to finish not even half of this drawing. You could continue or wait for me next time. I encourage you to continue putting patterns on each one of these sections. And then when if your drawing gets lost in the patterns, let's say the flowers you could barely distinguish them or something, if that tends to happen, it's easy to be solved. So what you will do is you will darken the outline. So you will darken this line. That was what defined the flower. Does that make sense? If between the patterns for some reason the design gets lost. So for the stem, I could make lines like this. Look, you know. But eventually, every section has to have a design, even behind the petal here. So maybe here are the wavy lines. Remember the wavy lines? Maybe this is the wavy lines. Maybe this one here, this petal is the letter R, capital letter R. But a bunch of them. You have to continue doing it. It's all about repetition and pattern. See, this is full of the letter R, and it looks like that. Maybe what else we have? The maybe the petal has that pattern of the scales. Remember? So I'm gonna end soon, but I want to show you something. And yes, the drawing is not completed, but at least I got you started with marks and patterns. You see the scales? Can you see them? I'm gonna darken the outline of this petal because it could get confused with the wavy lines. And this petal too. Everything I think I'm gonna have to darken every line that we did first so we could actually see the flower and the designs. Okay, but imagine the drawing building up. uh, Come on. There you go. With patterns like this, I know it feels blurry sometimes. I'm aware of it, so I'm waiting for it to focus. But imagine this, all these white spaces have some type of mark or pattern. This is why we need to enclose things like this. So this could be just lines. And these lines in this one could be the opposite way. Try to keep different patterns next to each other. Don't keep them similar next to each other because then it could be confusing. Maybe this one's each petal is just dark. It's just dark. I don't know. Okay. but we need to fill the whole space. Maybe another video continuation is to continue filling it up. But I want to finish showing you a technique that is using Zentangle. Obviously here we did a drawing, like we drew flowers, we drew butterflies, right? Some people can do a cat and make the cat Zentangle. But Zentangle doesn't have to have an actual defined outline of something you want to draw. It could be just what's called abstract, non-figurative. If you're gonna do that, you take a sheet of paper. Watch this. You take a sheet of paper. It doesn't matter the size. Okay. Um, but the idea is that you take your pencil or your pen. Follow me here, and you make. Look, you can start by just making this design of lines that go over each other. You see how they're going over each other? And guess what's happening? You get all these enclosed spaces. And your drawing will be different from my drawing when you do random things like this. But you see how now this, come on, takes a little while for my camera to focus. You see how this is an enclosed space? This is an enclosed space. This is an enclosed space. This one, this one, this one, this one. Any big enclosed space that is really big, maybe like this one, you could break it and make it smaller. So now there's two. Maybe this whole space can be cut out into two. But the idea is that now you can fill this section with a different pattern. I'm sorry, mark. But it all starts with you moving your pencil around and the line going over each other. So you see how now each section has a pattern? So I'm gonna do it again. Just have your pencil randomly go over each line. There's no perfection, or there's nothing, that you're looking after. Everybody's drawing is going to be different, but there's all these enclosed sections that you can fill in with a pattern or a design. Okay, maybe one of them is completely dark right here. I'll leave you with that. Continue filling it up with different each section, fill it in with design. Okay, a pattern, sorry, one of these. Maybe you want to put the hearts in this petal. You got the idea. And then we'll see what everybody did next time. Or if you want to hold on and wait, we'll do it all together again. Okay? Let me darken this outline. But now you see how this is something that could easily and more likely be done in a pen, because you don't need to erase. And you want to emphasize that darkness that the pen actually provides, that pencil really can't. Really dark mark. Okay, so I leave like this, and it's not finished, not even barely, not even half. But imagine all this everywhere, like the whole thing filled up. Same thing with this. Keep filling it up with patterns, so you could refer to them. And look up the word Zentangle on Google. There's many hundreds and thousands of samples online. Take care. Stay safe. I'll see you soon.
Wow, I learned so much.